that? Oh God, I'm gonna die. I gotta get this on camera. No. Hey everybody, welcome to the Marino Show. I'm your host, David Marino, and I'm welcoming back filmmaker, musician, Chris Shern. His latest film, Vic Effects, will be coming out, premiering rather, in about a month. And he has the sweatshirt on there to promo the movie. You're the king of promotion, I can see right there.
I'm a walking billboard, man. I can't help it.
That's awesome. Well, last time you were on the show, we talked about your other film, Evil Lurks. Also talked about the fact that you're in a band called Invisible Cartoons, but Vic Effects. I've been seeing this all over social media. There's several people that I follow that are either in the film or they've been sharing the trailer. So talk to me about this film and kind of like how long it's taken to get it together, because last time we talked, you were already preparing, and that was about a year ago, over a year. You're already preparing for this film. So take me on the journey through Vic Effects.
Yeah, so around pretty much after we did the premiere, the premiere screening for Evil Lurks, around 2022, I started piecing together Vic Effects. And usually, so around like November 2022 to like April, I wrote the script. Then I was piecing everything together, getting the right actors and the right pieces in place and stuff like that. So in September of 2023, we started filming, and we filmed 16 days in a 9-month span. So it was always about people's schedules, and then me for the most part, I self financed the movie on my own. So anytime I had money, available, I'm like, all right, we got a day or two on the weekend we can shoot. So between September of 2023 to June of 2024, I was working on a movie, and then I had the edit done. And then around October of 2024, I did a crowdfund for post production, and that went pretty well. And I've been doing that to get visual effects done and other aspects of the movie done. So as of right now, the movie is in a really good place. We're still tweaking the sound design. We still got a little over a month to go before we do a test screening in the theater that we're gonna have the premiere at. So after August 13th, the movie will be screened in a theater, and we're most likely gonna go the film festival route. So in between now into 2026, we'll be rolling with this movie.
Well, tell me what the film's about. I saw the trailer that dropped, and I'll show it
Yeah.
during this interview. But
Cool.
tell me about the plot of the film without giving too much away.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a twister, and a lot of Easter eggs in this movie. So to keep it simple, the movie's about a Foley artist. A Foley artist is someone who creates sound effects for like movies, video games, anything that needs sound effects for. So what she does, Vic Victoria Paulette, she's a Foley artist. She does sound effects for low budget horror films. So you know it's pretty much is about her going through the process of her creating sound effects for horror movies. So we start out in the movie, we created like a fake documentary about her career and stuff like that. And then we go into, different aspects of her making sound effects for horror movies. So out of the blue, this famous controversial horror director, Milo Kemp, played by Bill D. Russell, comes to her studio and talk to her about this movie that he's working on. And the previous Foley artist that was working on the movie passed away. This guy named Thomas Raven, who's actually Vic's idol, mentor. Well, we'll say mostly idol from a distance. So her idol. So when he passed away, Milo Kim asked Vic, "Hey, I need someone to finish making sound effects for this movie." So she agreed to do it with the help of her engineer, this guy named Coop, who's our sound engineer. And so they started working on this horror film. And the movie's kind of weird and kind of crazy and torturous and kind of, I don't know, it's off putting in a way of like, yeah, it's weird, but something else is going on with this movie. So, long story short, she's working on this movie, and within her working on these movies, all these crazy things started happening. And then all of a sudden, Milo Kemp shows up with some props from Thomas Raven's old setup. So she started using these things to make sound effects, and all these things started happening around her. So that's pretty much the premise of the movie.
What truly gets people's attention, what gets their attention is rage. Yeah, the way it looks, the way it feels, especially the way it sounds.
I mean, what's it like working with Thomas Raven?
Thomas has passed away.
Wait, what?
Actually, that's why I'm here talking to you right now.
Was he working on a film?
Yeah. Actually, something a little different than what we're used to. He admired you, Vicky.
He's an idol of mine. I really just copied what he was doing.
Which is why I believe that you should finish the film. And I know Thomas would want that as well.
So what now?
I don't know. You created it.
Did you approach this a little differently, or what did you try to do maybe that was different from the last time you made a film?
Well, I think for this film, I don't know if I really approached things from a directional standpoint as differently. I think I learned a lot from working on Evil Earth just because that was my first feature film that I worked on. So I took a lot of things from that to apply to this, but I feel like I had a better understanding of what I was doing, and I felt like I had a little bit more control. It was more Evil Earth had a controlled environment, but it was still certain things that was kind of like weird. But with this movie, I had a lot more. It was a lot of more thought put into it, and I had this idea of where I wanted to go with it. It's definitely on a higher scale than Evil Lurks, but it's less people I'm working with now. Like Evil Lurks had like 29 people in the movie, acting or was a part of it. And we had like multiple locations and stuff like that. With Vic Effects, it's on a broader scale, but only a certain amount of locations and a certain amount of people. For the most part, there's 2 people in a sound studio working on making sound effects for movies and stuff like that. For the most part in the movie, and then it'll jump into like all the crazy movies that she's working on, where it's more on a broader scale, but we still find a way to contain things and still make it like really chaotic. So I think for the most part, from my directional from being a director, from Evil Earth to this, I kind of did certain things similar, but I felt like I had a little bit more organization with everything to make it. It was a lot of work with the movie, but I think it was a lot easier to shoot, in my opinion. So, yeah.
I should have mentioned too at the top of the show that you're also an actor because you're in this film, like you were in Evil Lurks. So
Yeah, yeah. It's funny when I say it. Like I'm an actor. I'm an actor when it's convenient. Like I'm not I would never put myself in a place of like I do auditions or even check out my reel, I need to do all shit, I need to do like self tapes and all that stuff. It from a sense of, okay, I can figure this out, to, okay, I only have a certain amount of money to hire real actors so I can play this part. So in this movie, I'm not really acting of like lots, like with Evil Lurks, I had a major part in it. With this one, I'm playing the serial killer. I'm playing the monster. So I'm playing the supernatural, entity. Well, I did play Shushman in Evil Lurks as well, but yeah, I'm playing more of the creatures in this movie, which I love doing. I like, if somebody hiring for a creature suit, that'll be my reel. If somebody want to hire a monster or something, yeah, I'm ready, because it was a pain in the ass trying to be a director and being in the suit and just craziness. And but yeah, I do it for the sake of like, all right, I can put myself in these situations to act in my own movies. But I love playing creature. I'm all about playing monsters and creatures and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm once again, yeah, this character. Well, I don't know if you see it, this right here. Yeah, right here. That's yeah, that's me. Well, yeah, the computer's all weird. Yeah, so yeah, right there. So that's one of my creatures, and then I got another creature somewhere in here. These are all the characters in Vic Effects. So I'll be having these things available soon. I'm all about the merch game. So, but yeah, I'm playing multiple characters as far as monsters and stuff. A lot of people, it's a handful of people are playing. Well, a couple of people are playing different characters in this movie. So that was the cool thing about it. It was like a lot of work, but less people to deal with. So yeah.
you said the main character, she works in like sound effects, right? And kind of in filmmaking.
Right.
You yourself are a filmmaker, and what was that part of the inspiration behind this movie, or what sparked the idea to create this kind of a character and to have them be kind of centered in the filmmaking world?
Well, yeah, I usually do sound design and scoring for short films, and I did a short film called Love Me Tender, and one of the scenes, it was about a guy who's, he was a scumbag. He was like, had his wife and kid went out of town, so he decided to, go on Tinder and mess around or whatever. And so he met some woman on there, and he was gonna meet up with her. And then all of a sudden, things was on his phone saying that this woman passed away. And he's like, wait a minute, I was just talking to her. So long story short, the woman drowned, and then she came back to life, and then she kind of like came back and came to his apartment and did some things. But I had to create. I was the sound designer for that movie, and I consider myself. I mean, there's no school to being a Foley artist. You just like, if either being a Foley artist, and that's why I love that it still exists. it's not just about, okay, I got pre-recorded sounds and then I dump them into the thing. Like sometimes if there's certain things you can't create finding a piece of sound online, you got to create it yourself. So I need to create a woman walking like she's just all squished up because she was like the lake in the lake for like ever. So she's like walking around all squished up, like just wet and squishy sounding. So I had to create a sound effect of her walking in this room, barefooted, just all drenched in water and just like soggy and just whatever. So what I had to do was take some towels, wet towels, and put them on my feet, and then get a towel, and I was just kind of like walking and squish them, squishing the towel and all that stuff to get that effect. So that's what a Foley artist do. They'll use real, natural stuff. Like they'll look at the screen and they'll create the sound as they go, and then the engineer records, a bunch of stuff and piece it together and see what makes sense. So it's funny because when I remember doing that, and I felt something behind me, and that was just probably I don't know, probably just me being weird. But I was like doing the effect, and I turned around like, what the heck? I was like, what was that? Like it felt like somebody was walking behind me. So that kind of put the light bulb in my head to say, oh shit, that'll be an interesting idea to make a horror movie about. And there's really not a lot of movies about Foley artists. There's this one movie called Barbarian Sound Studio. And it's funny because when I wrote the script, I was like, I wonder if there's a movie like, similar to what I'm trying to do. Because I'm thinking like, oh man, this is different now. I don't think people are making a movie like this. And then so, it's a movie in 2013 about a Foley artist. Now, the difference between his movie and my movie, all you do is hear the sounds. You don't see visuals. Like with this movie, it cuts back to, it goes from the editing process, it goes into her making the sounds, and then it cuts into the movie of the actual full spectrum of the sound design. So it goes back and forth. So the editing is real, real, fast pace, where it goes to her doing her thing, and all of a sudden it jumps into all the craziness happening. So that's the difference between what I'm doing. So in reality, I'm making an anthology because we had to shoot short films. So we shot all this footage, and then the way I cut it and edit it, it goes back, cuts back and forth. So I'm unless somebody can tell me different, and I watch a lot of movies, I don't think anybody's done this before. And just like, I don't know if there's a good thing or bad thing. People like things that's familiar, but we're making a different vibe. So yeah.
I think that's really interesting. And I always love that kind of vibe when you see movies where it's kind of like a movie within a movie. The fact that you had to shoot these little short films and her work is, intertwined with that. That's very creative. But I imagine that, as you said, this was a little bit more of a controlled environment because you weren't doing all these different locations and there were less characters. But when you add those different short films, it feels to me like that would be the complicated part. That would add another layer to this film, right?
Yeah, because it's interesting. Because once again, it's something I don't want to give too much away. A lot of these films, the stuff that because it'll go into the film that she's working on, that she got hired to do, and things get weird. But it also goes into these different films that she did work on, and a lot of it is related to what's going on in her personal life. Like unconsciously, she's not thinking about it, but within the movie, if you put all the pieces together, a lot of things are kind of linked to who she is as a human being, and what she goes through in everyday life. So a lot of these movies is kind of like, a lot of these movies are things she's working on as a job, but they're also metaphors to what's going on in Vic's life, because she has a complicated situation going on. So it all kind of locks in. So as far as like one paying homage to like slashers and fantasy horror and science fiction horror and all this stuff, all of these things are kind of intertwined into what she's going through. So yeah, that's So it's telling. We're going back and forth with the different stories. It's also telling her story as well within these horror movies.
So give me a look behind, a peek behind the curtain in terms of, this film from beginning to end, in terms of like the whole financing stuff, and then kind of getting to where you are now, where you're putting the merch out. I know a lot of indie filmmakers, there's so much work that goes into financing one. That's the biggest thing,
Yeah.
money. And you usually don't have a lot of it. But then even for you, because I know you are big with the merch and really promoting the film. So how does that process sort of take place? Did you do a GoFundMe, or explain to me how you got to where you are today, where the film is now, like, you're in post-production and getting everything finished?
Well, the one thing that's important for me, especially knowing, my finances, and especially I self finance this movie. And I started saving money. I started saving money back in 2021, because I knew I was going to work on something else, and I was just kind of figuring out what was going to make sense for me and stuff like that. I think one of the fortunate things is the stuff I do with my band. We're fortunate that we can make a little bit of money in what we're doing. So any cut I get, I kind of put that to the side. I never use my work money to like do this stuff. I pay my bills, and I got 2 kids and a wife and all that stuff. So I'm a DIY. I'm DIY. I make that part of my whatever, my image. I'm a DIY filmmaker. I'm all about, like, I make the props. I edit my own films. I score majority of my films. I bring in music because I got a lot of musician friends. So I bring in musician friends to help me score my film. So I do a lot of things on my own. So that helps cut costs. I'm not paying someone to edit my movie. I'm not paying someone to do this and that. I have a partner who helps sound mix my movies that I've known for, like, I mean, he was working on my albums when I was 17. So we've been collaborating on working on the sound design with that. So everything is self finances, and it's just like I gather some money up, and then I kind of whatever. I did the Indiegogo back in October when I was ready for post production, because I do VFX stuff, but I hate doing it, and I wanted to find someone, a more professional person to do it. So I raised a little bit of money. It's funny because I wanted to raise like a couple of grand, and I ended up raising 7. So I was like, that's awesome. That was my first time doing it. It's a lot of fucking work, man. It's like, crowdfunding is not easy. And I'm not quick to like, hey man, can you guys give me some money, blah blah blah. I'm always about trying to figure things out for myself to do that. So for the most part, I raised my funds on my own, and then I did the crowdfund, and I got the funds on my own. Then I did the crowdfund and raised the money with that. So totaled, within that, what I got with that, and then um yeah, so I probably, maybe 13K that I spent on this movie to do it. And honestly, that's not bad compared to, like, the studio that I did. I got it sort of got it for free. But I'm not, I didn't have to pay to use that. My locations, I got hooked up, like, and I didn't have a lot of, like, we have one big warehouse where we have multiple rooms, and we set up the rooms we set up different rooms in this warehouse area. And the set design is not nothing extravagant or whatever. So that, but it, that wasn't a big deal with what we set up with that. I did the costumes, and I'm not a costume designer, but I went to spots and bought cheap stuff and refurbished it, and kind of created that. And so I had to become the costume maker. I had to make props once in a while. Just got stuff and went on tutorials to figure out, well, how can I do this, and then my instincts just figuring stuff out of what I needed to do. So I was the costume designer. I was, the set designer. I did, one of my actors also is the makeup, practical effects artist, as far as one of the main characters, Caitlin Stack. She had to do a different, she had to do different things. So it was pretty much a team effort where, I got fortunate with the locations and things because locations is key. If you can get locations for free, that cuts a lot of costs. Paying my actors, for the most part, they got paid. I wish I could have paid them more, but it's better for me to just say it's better that I know I can pay them instead of, you know, hey, be in my movie and get an IMDb credit. Like, no, you know, just like I want you in my movie and I want you work your ass off, and you know we get shit done. Yeah, so I pay them. So yeah, I mean it was a lot. It was self financing, and then I did the Indiegogo afterwards. So you know, whatever, any little bit of money that I got, you know, I put it. I like cool. Even if I got $20, I'm like, all right, cool. That's lunch. That's a nice pizza right there for the 2 or 3 people that's in the cast for this day. You know, it was no more. It was no more than there was no more than 3 people. You know, for throughout the day, it was never like when you see the movie, it's bombastic and crazy, but it's very intimate. It's a very intimate movie. So there was a lot of things I was thinking about when it came to efficiency and getting things done quickly, and then also the financial aspect of it. So yeah, and man, if somebody come my way and investors and they want to give me a bunch of money and it makes sense, I'm all about it. But I'm always gonna be that filmmaker who do things where he know he has control over the situation. I don't have control of it. Somebody give me money. I don't know how that's all going to pan out. I have control of when I can put my own money down and say, all right, let me, you know, put things together. So it worked. It worked out beautifully. And my next film is strategically that way because my next film is a full on anthology. So yeah, it'll be kind of. I'll talk a little bit more after that towards the end of the segment. You know, the end of the interview about what I'm trying to do with the because this is the Vic Effects universe. So there's a lot of things. There's a 4 year plan of what I'm trying to do, and Vic Effects is the beginning stages.
So will they all be? You can go ahead and talk about it now. Will they all be related to this film, or
Yeah. So a lot of those films that she's doing sound effects for, I'm gonna do a full on presentation in my next film, which is about a horror host. So like in that Joe Bob Briggs kind of atmosphere, and Joe Bob Briggs meets Elvira without the sexiness, but a nice looking chick that's very sassy and got quick witted. And I'm gonna be making these full like short films in this movie, so it'll be an anthology, and it's all gonna be based on the stuff she worked on. So it's kind of like a prequel within like these movies that she's worked on, and then they'll be presented, to this next film, and that's all related to the Vic Effects universe. So that movie is called Tempest Bronte Late Night Horrorland. So that's the name of that movie.
When are you going to start working on those? Well,
everything's going to depend on the movement of Vic Effects. My goal is to try to do it before the end of the year, to start working on it by the end of the year. I'm hoping to start doing the crowdfund around October, and then start raising the money for that film.